I went into phasmophobia blind. I did not read the Steam page, I did not play the tutorial, and I didn't watch the Markiplier playthrough. Just got told to download the game and that it was about figuring out what type of ghost was hunting our house through clues, and dove straight into it. And safe to say, I shat myself.
Okay, just go.
What are you doing? The opening part of a game is always very severe, as it teaches the player what to expect for the rest of it and sorta encapsulates the vibe of the game that they're gonna feel. So starting off in Phasmophobia, as we gear up with our ghost hunting tools, snatch the house keys and watch the van door creak down, this very much radiates vibes that we are heading into some kind of war, which builds the ghost up as a threat, which would make the house we are about to enter the dangerous battlefield. So it hasn't even been 5 seconds, and off the bat I'm already anxious about even stepping foot inside the house. Now I'm with my friend Fludge, and after a lot of back and forth on who should run inside the house first, we just go in together. And as the melodies of the outside world are drowned into the haunted house's ambience, it very much feels like we're passing a threshold into the ghost's domain, communicating that we are not safe. What follows is me and my friend fumbling around the house trying to figure out how to use our gear to find clues, whilst learning the house's layout, all whilst our sanity depletes. Literally in real life, as the constant fear that the ghost is around any corner consumes us, but in game too with the sanity mechanic, as the more time we spend in the house, the more likely scary, dangerous events happen. This is perfect for pacing, as the problem that most horror games face is that they're far too quick with their jump scares, going all out scary horror bang 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 bang, which often desensitizes us to the violence and just becomes annoying. And even when horror games do try to do a slow build up to the horror, the build up is often so slow that it ends up just getting boring. However, with this sanity mechanic, it allows the scares to escalate in a very natural way that just works. It also adds some urgency to the gameplay, as now we want to figure out these clues and get on out of here before the ghosts drops our sanity too low and kills us. So no matter what we're doing, we're always on a ticking time bomb, which naturally brings more anxieties. But none of that matters right now, because me and Fludge are lost. We don't know anything about this sanity mechanic or anything about the gameplay. We're still fumbling about the house. These anxieties then get a bit too grand, and I decide I want a breather. So as I go to walk out the house and get some fresh air, the door shuts and locks. When the ghost starts its hunt, this is where the game transforms into a more traditional horror game of surviving and hiding from the roaming monster. This is very simple, however, after the excellent build-up we've just had that portrays the ghost as a credible threat and makes them feel alive, it's hard to not panic and fear when they finally start chasing us, which culminates in getting killed, which is exactly what happened to us. Naturally, after such a disaster like that, the player will vow to not mess up this badly again and will probably start researching how to actually play the game. At least that's what I did, because I didn't do the fucking tutorial! And will learn how to use all the different ghost hunting tools and mechanics, like sanity, and learn how the ghosts will haunt a specific room we must find. And with a newfound feeling of determination we have from our new knowledge, we journey back into the house. This determination is quickly crushed, however, as we remember how terrifying this place is, but we persevere nonetheless. Now, many things can happen here. Perhaps we manage to find the haunted room, perhaps we manage to set up some of our equipment here, and maybe, just maybe, we managed to get one of the pieces of evidence needed to catch the ghost, which fills us right back up with hope and determination to win, but then the door shuts and locks again. Because you see, as we get invested into our ghost investigation and manage to start doing the gameplay correctly, we can often forget about the ever-looming presence of the incoming ghost attack. So when the lights start flickering and the ghost's footsteps can be heard in the distance, that is the biggest horror this game can induce. You can strategize on your plan of action for surviving a ghost hunt all you want, but once you forget about that and focus on the gameplay, you're left stranded when the ghost catches you off guard. and even if you manage to get it together in time and survive the hunt, worse fates await you, as you're left to return to the normal gameplay with the tension that it could return at any point, which is more a hindrance to your progress than the actual hunt itself. Because this fear, that negative tension, will affect everyone negatively in different ways. For some it causes them to hide and cower in fear in some corner of the house, for others it makes them run back to the van and hide there for the rest of the game. This is called a van princess, and that's me. I'm the van princess of the team. But generally, at best, most players will just try and, in a rush, find the remaining pieces of evidence quickly and get out of there. However, because they rushed things, they'll end up getting the ghost identity wrong and lose the level. And this is a cycle that will repeat for quite a while, and it's where most players drop out. Even if a player manages to get into the rhythm of ghost hunting and on a whim gets a ghost identity right and wins a level, that rhythm, that confidence will quickly be thwarted yet again when a new map appears and messes everything up. The maps are a very important part of the psychology of the game, so let's talk about them for a moment. The first map, Tanglewood, is what we have been playing on so far, and after a bit we realised that it is actually quite small, and once you get your hand on it, it becomes quite manoeuvrable. So moving on to the other house-centric maps, things get a little bit more complicated, requiring more strategy at how they're laid out, which is a lot bigger. The panic when the ghost starts hunting is made both easier and harder. Easier in that the map's bigger, there's a lot more rooms and a lot more places to hide. But a lot harder in that since the maps are new and big, you have no idea where you're going half the time or where you are, so it can be rather disorientating, which allows the ghost to take advantage of that. A similar logic applies to the ghost, as with the smaller Tanglewood, you could generally know the rough area of the ghost at all times, with the downside of that meaning it's always nearby because of the small map. However, here it's reversed, as now you have no idea where the ghost is, which can be rather scary. However, that has the upside of there at least being distance between you and the ghost. This added distance allows the player to think a lot more before the ghost eventually makes their way to their location and starts making them panic. And this thinking allows the player to easily more outmaneuver the ghost or find a hiding spot. And through this, the player can get a little bit more confidence that is required for them to not rush things and therefore more consistently win the levels, which means more money and more gear, which then means more wins. It just causes a snowball effect. So now we're finally getting somewhere, as now we're finally winning. Moving on to the camping maps, these are what I consider my comfort place. A vacation, a reward for a recent victory, because they're relatively easy and aesthetically pleasing too. Instead of feeling oppressive like the houses, the camping map has this vibe to it. I'm sure I don't need to explain it, just look at the place. It's camping, it's very cozy. There's a relaxing side to phasmophobia, which might sound crazy, but there's many points to it. The first is that it's a friends game. You play it to chill out with your buddies and have a laugh, which can easily be lost in all the screaming. And secondly, many find it quite satisfying, setting up all this gear and doing these chores to discover the ghost. It's almost like cleaning, which many find a vibe in. And whilst this certainly doesn't apply to everyone, it's hard to not feel something of the sort when in the camping map. And through this, the horror of the game begins to be alleviated. Granted, we get killed by the ghost all the same, deaths are no longer a devastating gut punch, but more so just an inconvenience. The anxiety slips away as we start feeling more safe in this world as we know what we're doing. Moving on to the lighthouse level, the farmhouse level, this is where something strange starts to happen, as despite being objectively the scariest map we've encountered so far, that being desolate mansions where the horrific presence of the ghost is able to make its full potential realised, they aren't really that scary. So what's happening here? Well, it's just simply all the knowledge and skills we have developed have allowed us to learn the ghost inside out, so investigating feels less like surviving the unknown, but more like battling against a known enemy, turning the game from a horror to a thriller. So even though the settings we are in are rather scary, the ghost is no longer that much of a threat, as now we've learnt about it a bit more. When the ghost starts hunting, it's no longer longer a scare but now an opportunity to catch the ghost, giving away a clue to its identity. The player, presumably chasing all the major item upgrades at this point, will be very money hungry too, so will follow the optional quests for any extra moolah they can get their hands on, which often consists of diving headfirst into the ghosts to complete the quests. And that, diving headfirst into the ghost, that's something that early game we would never have conceived of doing. And this sort of creates a connection between the game and the player, as the more the player plays the game and acquires knowledge from it, the more the game teaches the player to not be afraid, turning what was once a horrifying experience into something exciting, which is what I think this is all about, and what makes phasmophobia so worth it. So now at this point, the ability of the player versus the power and threat of the ghost is about 50-50, leaning more towards the player as we get more wins than not. We are in a pretty good gameplay loop, so now the final levels approach. The large maps. This seems like the big next good challenge to test our skills. So let's go and finish the ghost and... The large maps are hell. For comparison, the other maps have about 10 to 20 rooms you must comb through in order to find the ghost's hiding place. However, in the large maps, you have about 60 to 70 rooms. Getting through these places feels like wandering through a desert of monotony, and stepping inside it's impossible to not feel a feeling of dread of the journey that awaits ahead of you. This is a turn-off for many players, and it's where most casuals will drop out. However, for those who've come this far, let's dive in. Now as you investigate, the game begins to drain the emotion out of you. Just entering rooms and doing chores to check if this is the ghost room becomes hopeless. Even with the help of items and the cursed objects, the size of the map is so ginormous it just feels rather dead and perhaps even boring. This boredom again can be a turn off for some players and makes them put the game away. However, for others, this boringness has a different effect. It drags them back into the world, as some find this realistic, and therefore if it's realistic, more immersive. And when you're fully immersed in the game, you begin to notice details more, and that's especially effective in a horror game like Phasmophobia. Every little noise now makes us jump again, and it always feels like there's something about to crawl up behind us. No, there we go, we found the ghost room. Finding the ghost room in these maps is sure to bring a feeling of relief as we finally got through that slog, but as we set up our items and gather the team here, it's sure to bring a daunting realization too. We have to walk all the way back to the entrance to get more gear from the van, and then walk all the way back to the ghost room to set those items up. Christ, it's a tiring feeling. All that excitement and thrills from the glory day where we were having such excitement hunting the ghost are long gone. So we begin to trek back to the door. Good chance we get lost on the way too. That's just brilliant, isn't it? Every time we run out of stamina and have to walk slowly before we recharge, it's always a slap in the face. But here, finally, the exit. But oh no, the door is locked. A hunt has started. Many questions fill the brain. How long has this hunt been happening? Are my teammates okay? And most worryingly of all, where is the ghost? It's out there somewhere. These large maps aren't my thing. I do not find the 60-room maps good game design, but it is undeniable that journeying here for the first time humbles you back to how it felt when playing the game in general for the first time. The power and fear the ghost has finally returned. So the large maps, let's talk about them. First of the three is the high school. This one's the most basic as the layout is just two squares stacked on top of each other. However, it has the uniqueness of lacking any hiding spots, which is especially a problem with how long and open the hallways are, combined with the ghost's long line of sight. This helps restore that early game panic feeling with how you are powerlessly weak to the ghost, as all you can do is just bolt it when the ghost is spawning to build distance, because once the ghost locks onto you, it's over. Running into thrilling danger like before is no longer an option. Prison is the second large map up, and to some it's worse than the actual final boss, Sunny Meadows, because just look at this thing. The other two large maps can be easily understood on paper, just being hallways with rooms attached to them. However, this one's layout is a lot more messy. The lower half looks very nonsensical, a lot like the house maps. However, they only worked there because they were small and therefore easy to learn. However, here it will be a long time before you're not having a headache navigating the place. And what a place to get a headache in, because the prison is eerie as hell, considering, well, it's a prison. One of the only locations in the game, if not the only location, where in real life the place is actively considered hostile and not somewhere that is safe. The upper half of the map is even worse, as it's a lot like the high school, with it just being rows and rows of cells, all of which need to be investigated, which is bad enough on its own if it weren't for the fact that all of this is times by 2 because the cell blocks have 2 floors to them, and then even that's times by 2 again because it's mirrored on the other side of the facility. This is also a death trap, because if the ghost starts hunting you here, then you are forced to retreat back into the lower half of the facility, which again has that complicated headache layout which strikes you, causing the ghost to be able to take advantage of that, and big bam, the feeling of powerlessness and weakness is here yet again. And at last we have Sunny Meadows, the asylum, a mix of both the long winding hallways we had in the high school and the death trap like setup we had in prison. The gimmick of this map is there's obstacles scattered about the hallways, so we have the new mechanic of dodging obstacles to escape the ghost, which the ghost is already kind of faster than us, so this doesn't really help whatsoever. The addition of these obstacles brings a new difficulty spike that's a lot like the jump from the non-large maps to the large maps, so Sunny Meadows is on a whole new level of difficulty even to its brothers. And the level this difficulty is on is just getting ridiculous at this point. The only way I can describe it is, as this part of the video implies, hell. Now, I mentioned it earlier, but what the difficulty of this game does is it applies pressure to the player, forcing them to either quit the game or just get better. Survival of the fittest. Now, this system is present in most games, however is particularly aggressive here because of that connection the player has between the game. And to put this notion into statistics, if we're looking at achievements, and this is all estimating by the way, roughly 7% of players got into the portion of the game that the large maps are in, and only 2% get past it. So how the hell do they do that? Well, just like in real life, in order to outpace the monstrous predators, it is to become the monster ourselves. Watch as many phasmophobia YouTube videos as possible, brute force learning the layout of the map, and become a machine when it comes to organising our items. This is a brutal process. Singular levels that were formerly as short as a few minutes now reach into the hours, with such hours of progress going to hell because of one small mistake that leads the ghost to getting us. And for the best results we need a team of players to do this, so we need a team of machines, which duplicates this process, making it all the more brutal. And eventually your reward comes. Things get better. Play something enough, you'll have no choice to become a master at it with the instinctive knowledge you have. And this becomes rather fun, as hell becomes conquered, and the ghost returns to being something that is no longer a scary threat, and therefore combating it is once again thrilling. We are now back in our prime. Anyone who has made it this far can obviously call themselves a phasmophobia hardcore, and it's what a lot of games do. They have layers like an iceberg. Surface layer stuff that everyone will know, middle stuff that will only be shown to people who get into the game, and then the abyss at the bottom of the iceberg, which only the true fans reach. And it is the goal of most games to drag you down into that void, so you become part of their dedicated fan base. I rarely touch that. I'm one to play a game and get bored and move on. Never have I stuck around to reach a void in any game I've ever played. I've never reached that being good at a game point. This is a very elaborate way of saying I'm really shit at phasmophobia. That's it. So now we've answered how players do this and become conquerors of hell. But the real question is why? Why would someone willingly subject themselves to this hell? Sometimes it's just content. If you're a YouTuber, then being the best at a game is what is demanded of you. Other times, they might just find this fun. But most interesting of these reasons is when someone just feels a connection to the game. Games don't have to be fun and enjoyable. They're about feeling emotions, just like how you watch a sad movie to be sad. So when you're fully immersed in being a ghost hunter, whether you're having a shit experience or not doesn't matter. What matters is that you're immersed. Whether the game is shit or not, you're not thinking about that. You're not seeing it as a game. You're in the world now. So even though it's not very enjoyable, that connection one has with phasmophobia, that soul to it, it's undeniable there's a beauty in that. Also, this game kinda fucking sucks, bro. There's something fucking in here. There's the fucking boogeyman in here. I do not know why I'm going deeper. I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm feeling... I can't go back defeated. What the fuck? Right. You guys can't see it. Neither can I. I am not going into the void over there. I am not going into the void over there. Oh fuck. There is something fucking behind me. There's something fucking behind me. There is something fucking behind me. Hello? I was dead. This was a dare. I'm not trying to steal anything. Bro, what the fuck, man? If this is some monster, I'll leave your territory now. Ooh. Right. Fuck. Praying it was just a cat. It looks kind of animalistic, so it's probably just like some fucking raccoon or something. They got raccoons around here? I don't know.